every area, go into it and look at it. What is the special problem in this area, and which are the renewable resources around this area?
We're installing a solar array that will generate power from the sun.
The outlook for continued growth and investment in the renewable energy sector is excellent, and it's driven by a number of factors, most important being the promise.
Opportunities to adjust how we regulate electricity and other utility rates.
We have been promising our public for years and years that we're going to diversify our energy sources.
But in the last few years, like people everywhere, they've seen a dramatic increase in their fuel bills, including the cost of fuel for their local power plant. This is their response: solar power.
Let's start out with the basics. Let's look at three types of systems. You have where you have a normal meter that you have in your house. That's just a normal meter, and now most of them are smart meters. So you have a normal meter system. And right now on this system at my farm, I have what they call a net meter. And most companies, most electric companies, will not allow a net meter anymore. They've taken that out because they're finding out that they're losing too much money. So this one out here, the 5.52 tracking system, runs all year. And we end up with over 4,000 kilowatts surplus each year because we dry about 55,000 bushel of corn here each year. The one year we dried 75,000 bushel of corn for free. There was no cost because the net meter, what it does is it keeps track of the energy going both directions. It keeps track of this time of the year when I'm drying my corn, because now it's, what, November 9th today, something like that. And it keeps track when I'm drying my corn, the electricity is coming in. But it also keeps track of how much I'm sending out all year. So I use very little electricity, except for heating my office here, during the year. So what I'm doing is I'm finding now that I'm getting a net gain. I'm not, so I don't care. I'll have it 80 degrees in here sometimes. I don't really care because it doesn't cost me anything. That's why they're shutting this off. So we have the normal smart meter that most people have today. This has a net meter. And in my case, in my house, I have a no meter because I don't need it. I'm producing everything myself. I have a set of batteries that absorb enough power during the day. And when they do that, then that allows me to use my electricity up during the night. So it's a completely off-grid system. This December, my battery system, my whole system, will be 18 years old.
I would say that animal-based farms are going to be the ones that are best benefited because their operations are in buildings. And they are the ones that need the power, whereas a land-based farm has combines or other activities that are out in the fields. You look at hog farms, you look at dairy is very high power consumption because they have refrigeration, and so and then you do have some farm-based activities like the blueberry farms where they come right out of the fields and they need to. About 80% of their product is cleaned and flash frozen. Very large refrigeration needs. This year, or the year before, the life cycle costing of solar was below all other technologies other than wind, and it's expected by the end of next year for solar to be cheaper than wind. These are very good, stable businesses, and power is a important cost in their structures. And so if there's a way to stabilize that cost or bring it down, it's even better. And so as right now there's 2 poultry farms that are going to end up getting some solar to offset the bulk of their costs. and by integrating them into the project cost, we can. It sometimes is actually cheaper to build a building with solar than without, in that some of the building costs can be incorporated into the solar project. And what's cool is that it's systems thinking that is reality-based, in that they're writing software to be able to use the assorted assets to decrease operating costs. So whatever rate you're on, you input that rate structure into the software, it looks up the rate itself and then designs protocol to operate at the lowest cost possible. And I mean, whomever their customer, a lot of the supply chain is now supporting the renewable efforts of companies. So in the agriculture businesses, it's particularly sensitive because the operations have to compete worldwide, and so it is every little thing you can do on the economic side and on the renewable side. If that helps you get one little bit ahead of your competition, you've got to do it. Base exceeds by sometimes 2 and 3 times the cost of actually having agriculture on that land. And so what's exciting is that wind turbines, solar arrays are now helping to provide stabilized income for the farmers in different parts of the country. So, for areas that have big wind turbines, you can get, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars a month in stabilized income there's no operating cost for them. Similarly, you can get rent from 10 to several hundred acres for a solar project and find similar kind of success. What it does is it takes some of the risks out of operating, because some of your income will come in no matter what.
Solar panel adoption on agricultural properties is interesting in that there are very few family farmers that can use all the electricity that would come from a solar array on their property. So when I initially thought about solar panels at farms, I thought, gee, does a farm really use that much electricity? And certainly some of the agribusiness operations do. But for the most part, you're building these solar arrays as a small generating station to feed the electricity into the power grid to sell it to the electric company, to provide electricity to your neighbors, and to make it a secure source of electricity in your neighborhood, not subject to power lines going down 5 miles away and interfering with your delivery of electricity. The cost of solar panels have come down such that electricity from solar panels is now competitive with electricity from nuclear power plants, from coal-fired power plants, even from natural gas-fired power plants. So cost-wise, it's competitive. It would seem to me that farmers are in it for the long term. You find that industry looks and says, what's the payback on this solar panel? Is it a year and a half? If it isn't, I'm not going to do it. Farmers and family farms and all are looking out 10, 20, 30 years. And in that time frame, solar panels are ideal, because the worst case scenario I've seen is the payback is 8 years. So as long as you're thinking you're going to be on the farm for at least 8 years. It makes sense.
And that one has, this one is a 5.52. So these are 230 watt panels, and there's 24 of them on there. You calculate that out, and it's a 5.52. This is 4 years old as of August 31st this year. And over the past 4 years, it has exceeded the solar panel rating. In other words, these are 230 watt panels, and it comes out to 5.52. If you calculate it out, it has produced 60% more than that through the tracking device. The tracking device allows you to get that much more. You think about it. A solar panel, when the sun shines against it at perpendicular position, perpendicular to the sun position of that, that means that you're getting the most out of the sun. So that follows the sun all day, every day. Obviously, you get less in the wintertime because you have less hours of sun. But in the summertime, you produce massive amounts of electricity. And that's what we've found over the years, and it does really well. That's the reason almost everybody's putting in trackers now. So instead of being a 5.52, you can do the math. I don't keep it in my head, but it's something like almost an 8 kilowatt system in actuality, actual function, rather than a 5.52. That's what the solar panel rating is on it. But by tracking, it produces 60% more. By all the, this head takes one chunk of concrete. There's a 3-foot diameter base, 9 feet in the ground. And it's got a massive piece of re-rod, or pieces of re-rod in there in a cage that does that. And then that's bolted to that top plate. And there's an antennometer at the top. And if those that are listening don't know what an anemometer is a wind meter. And a wind meter at the top, you'll be able to see it spinning up here, because I can sit here and see it right now. And that means that it's actually, if the wind gets up to 30 miles an hour, to protect itself, it tips up flat to protect itself. Sometimes I'll come home during the day and it's really windy and it'll still be up, but then all of a sudden it'll flip. So when that antennometer reaches 30 miles an hour, that's it. It'll tip up flat to protect itself, because that's nothing more than a big wing out there.
The big problem with solar energy is, like all electricity, it cannot be stored. So you either produce it and use it, or you lose it. And the next big step for solar development will be battery storage, such that you can produce lots of electricity when the sun is shining, and then extract it as needed when the sun is not shining at night.
People are saying to me, okay, how many times have you changed your batteries out? I've never changed them. They're the originals. And in fact, I called the company, because they are 18 years old or close to it. I called the company and I said, wait a minute here. I'd like to change these batteries. And the guy said, the owner of the company, he said to me, that once I got through to him, he said to me, what are you doing to those batteries to make them last so long? Because they're only supposed to last 10 years. And I said, I'm taking care of them correctly. I have my heated building, my heated shop up there. I'm maintaining them correctly as far as putting water in them and all that. And I'm making sure that they're properly charged and discharged.
I think the exciting changes that are coming have to do with the integration of storage, backup generation, and being able to create uninterruptible power supplies for the facilities that we put them in.